curious, from your study of hypnotherapy and motivational coaching and high performance coaching, which I know you've got an MA in, what were the biggest shifts in your understanding of human beings and human behavior and achievement from the work you did within those degrees and diplomas?
Oh, that's a big question. I suppose I'm just a lifelong learner. I can't stop. I just love to keep applying new learning. But what I like doing is I'm really, I suppose, the experiential learning piece. So I'm always trying to apply what I'm learning in my own life, or and marry the two things up, because when we live it, or we teach it, or we experience it, it's so much more real for us, isn't it? So I think in that process, one of the most profound learnings I've had between the study and my own practical process is the power of, I mean, it sounds basic and trite, but the power of our mind and our ability to change it. Like, I think, you know, when I was younger, I just thought I was my thoughts. You become subject to them. Your thoughts create the emotions. You are your emotions. I never really understood how much we can completely take charge of our thoughts and our emotions, and therefore completely change our reality. So, I mean, that's just touching it at the most basic level. But I suppose one of the places I most deeply experienced that was when I was invited to go and climb El Capitan in Yosemite National Park. So it's a kilometer-high overhanging rock face that's, I guess, became most famous through
Alex Honnold.
Exactly. Free Solo. And the first time when I saw it, I just looked up at this rock face and thought, this is crazy. Like, what am I doing? I was petrified. I was scared. It seemed ridiculous. My thoughts became dominated by the fact I'd nearly died in a climbing accident and how risky it was. What on earth was I doing there? I'm not a proponent of lying, but I told my mum and dad I was going on a beach holiday to California because I didn't want them to worry. And to be honest, I thought I was going on a beach holiday. I didn't really think we would climb it. But in that process of climbing El Capitan, and we failed the first time, we came back down, we nearly left, and then ended up going back again. It was a massive live experiment in changing our thoughts in the very moment to take control. So being up on that rock face, shaking and crying and thinking about how I was going to die is clearly no state to be in when you really could, if you don't get yourself together. So it was a place where I had to apply everything I'd learned in my studies: hypnosis, breathing, visualization, thought control, reframing, task orientation, really focusing on exactly what I needed to do in each moment, and bringing my focus very, very narrow into all the little details of what I needed to concentrate on. So all these techniques that we talk about, but they were brought together in the most intense way I could have ever imagined. And in the end, in a super special and very profound experience of climbing El Capitan. And again, it's slightly digressing, but when I got back and told my mum and dad what I'd actually done, they were gobsmacked, not because of what I'd done, but because they could remember that when I was 10 years old, as a family, we'd been to Yosemite National Park. And apparently as a 10-year-old, I'd looked up at the rock face and said I was going to climb it one day. And I had no recollection of ever thinking it or saying it. So it was another reminder of the power of words and intention.
My God, that's amazing.
But I don't know if I really answered your question there, but really, I think, you know, how we can influence our mind and also how we can program our subconscious mind towards results that we want is incredible what we can do. So the power of visualization, of focus, of hypnosis, and mentally taking ourselves through processes and emotionally connecting to them. That's how I won a gold medal. It was not ever about physical prowess, I would say.
You mentioned reframing, hypnosis, visualization. What are some of the ways that you use those three mental skills within your adventures for endurance, or, you know, other reasons?
Well, probably the place I've applied them most was in my sport career. So for example, what I would do is make myself a hypnotic recording to work on things that I was anxious about or that I felt weaker about, and before a big major championships or an Olympic Games, I would mentally ride the course along with a hypnotic recording that had me riding it. So because I made it for myself, I could design and address all the kind of things that I knew were in my subconscious about worrying about getting off the start line and being left behind or not having a sprint at the end. And I'd really just program in these images through the hypnotic recording, and then I'd play it to myself on waking in the morning or just before falling asleep when our brainwaves are at that most slower state and dropping into theta or gamma, and we're able to just sort of change how we're hearing things and experiencing things. And so I guess I just really practiced programming my mind, visualizing, riding all the detail. So for example, for a World Championships or an Olympics, I would have watched a video of the course beforehand. I'd know every single corner, every single pothole probably. I would mentally know exactly when I was going to change gear, what gear I would be in, where I would position my body, how I would lean. Like every minute kind of detail of what I would be doing with my body, with my gears, with my mind was going into these recordings. So when it came to actually racing, it's like you've already raced it 100 times before. You're on automatic, so there's nothing coming up as a surprise. I would even work to kind of write scenarios that you wouldn't be able to predict. So what will you do if someone rides past you in a time trial? That means that somebody's caught you up, so you're not going to win anymore. And the natural instinct might be to feel disheartened, to suddenly go, oh, I've blown it. I'm not going to medal anymore, and to go into a kind of negative thought pattern. And this actually really worked for me in the London Paralympic Games, because I programmed in my mind that if someone rode past me, I would just dig in harder and ride after them, and maybe I could still get a silver medal. And that's exactly what happened. That the American rider rode past me, and I ended up just chasing after her. And if I hadn't done that bit of programming, I think I would have probably thought I was doing really badly, probably wouldn't have got any medal. But because I programmed it, suddenly I was chasing and I ended up getting a silver medal. So just writing the outcome into your mind, like really going into the detail and just making everything automatic.
If what you've heard on Flow Research Collective Radio has been helpful, please consider doing us a solid and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to this. Reviews help us connect to a wider audience so we can get these peak performance principles out to more people.